The intro to this video has no names and no faces, because no name and no face carries more weight than the loss we are witnessing. Still, I speak, because silence is not enough. And as an architect, as an academic, this is the language I know: space, form, and care. My name is Manal Shalam, a PhD student at Okan University, and what follows is my work, Manal Shalam, with my colleague Mariam Bakka, under the supervision of Professor Dr. Halil Samih Eryıldız. It is a response to herbicide, to exile, and to the erosion of everyday life. Last semester, under the guidance of Professor Halil Samih Eryıldız, we explored ecological design, not just as a technical discipline, but as a holistic approach, one that links space to memory, form to feeling, and sustainability to the emotional and social dimension of life. Through our studies, we came to understand something fundamental. The built environment is never just physical. It holds memory, identity, and belonging. The tangible and intangible are always intertwined. This is what shaped our approach to Gaza, a place where both the material and the emotional infrastructure of everyday life are being deliberately erased. When we speak of herbicide in Gaza, we're not only referring to the flattening of buildings, but to the systematic erosion of everyday life, its spatial memory, its emotional anchors, and its right to continuity. This erosion doesn't end with bombs. It continues in the plans that follows.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it.
One of the most striking examples was the Trump administration's Peace to Prosperity plan. Marked as a vision for economic revival, it proposed turning Gaza into a commercial corridor, a so-called New Riviera of hotels, high-speed roads, and foreign investments. But this vision had nothing to do with the restoration. It imagined Gaza not as a home to displaced people, but as a blank state, stripped of its history, grief, and right to self-determination. Trump's plan may have been the most theoretically detached, but it wasn't the only one. Other reconstruction frameworks, from UN Habitat to Gulf-funded development programs, have also imagined Gaza as a site of infrastructure and investment, often stripped of political context. These plans emphasize logistics, budgets, and delivery timelines, but rarely do they ask, who is this for? Who gets to decide what rebuilding looks like? What values shape the space? In many of these proposals, community participation is minimal. The designs are standardized, the outcomes are imposed. Gaza becomes a site to be managed, not healed. Among the responses, Egypt's plan has played a central role. Backed by over $50 billion in funding and positioned as a regional alternative to more external interventions, Egypt's plan outlines a complete reconstruction of Gaza's urban fabric. At first glance, the proposal appears comprehensive. It promises phased redevelopment, temporary housing, transportation infrastructure, and large-scale housing for millions of displaced Palestinians. But beneath its layers of zoning diagrams and technical phases lie serious concerns. The plan proposes a 1,000 to 1,500-meter buffer zone along both the Israeli and Egyptian borders, turning formerly residential areas into logistic hubs, security corridors, formalized visions of Israeli incursion baths, fragment Gaza into isolated zones. Urban continuity is disrupted, residents are displaced again. The city becomes more controlled, not more livable. In response to all of this, we offer an alternative. Our prototype is guided by a three-pillar framework: a strategy that responds to Gaza's environmental fragility, its exposure to conflict, and the urgent need for post-war recovery. These three pillars, ecological strategies, war resilient urban tactics, and post war revitalizations, are not treated separately. They are layered and intertwined throughout the neighborhood, shaping both spatial form and lived experience. Situated in Rafah, at the threshold between Gaza and Egypt, and just inland from the Mediterranean Sea, this position is highly strategic. It offers access to multiple forms of transit infrastructure, including a proposed tram line, metro line, and regional roadways, making it a critical testbed for decentralized, resilient, and community led reconstruction. Border adjacency, public transit, proximity to mobility corridors, traffic patterns, urban form, and ecological potential through nearby agricultural links. To the west, the site connects to Egypt through a sandy buffer zone and light agriculture areas. To the east, it links directly to transit infrastructure and urban services, enabling both local and cross-border movement. Zooming into the site layout, our design responds directly to the surrounding urban conditions, particularly the mixed heavy and light traffic routes that form clear edges and thresholds around the site. This is not a blank site. It is a layered threshold between conflict and return, fragmentation and cohesion. Situated in Rafah, designed not for erasure but for return, our proposal builds upon Gaza's existing spatial logic, retaining walkable distance, familiar scales, and communal patterns of living. Our proposal envisions a 3-hectare neighborhood that integrates housing, healing spaces, and everyday infrastructure through a framework grounded in ecological resilience, modularity, and community care. At the heart of the neighborhood lies a healing plaza, a civic space for gathering, mourning, and rebuilding social life. It includes shaded areas, native fruiting trees, a mosque, and underground shelter, responding to both psychological and physical needs. The housing is modular and adaptable, allowing for phased reconstruction and incremental growth. Local materials, passive design, and decentralized energy systems support ecological performances. Education, health, and markets are not separate zones. They are embedded within the daily flow of the neighborhood. Services are scattered, not centralized, increasing accessibility and reducing vulnerability. This is not a master plan for control. It is a prototype for dignity. It is a statement that Gaza cannot be rebuilt through generic grids or geopolitical interests. It must be rebuilt through memory, community, and care. To live in Gaza is to endure repeated erosion, but to build in Gaza, to design, to plant, to shape space is an act of resistance. It is a declaration that despite everything, Gazans still imagine a future. They still dream of home. They still assert their right to exist and to return. Because architecture and building is the expression of the will to live.